Hey, my name is Shelly, and in this video, we're going to be talking about what I've been reading recently. So I've been a busy bee. There's been things going on in my life that I have just wanted to experience pure escapism. So I have been reading like a maniac. I have not been doing anything else besides reading. Plus we had like a cold pass through our house. So we were all home for a couple days. So again, more reading. Since I have quite the update to talk about, I'm going to go through things kind of quickly, especially the first three books, which are the DNFs that I'm going to be talking about. So the first DNF I have is The Wall of Winnipeg by, I didn't write it down because I'm a dumbass and I totally forgot, so I'll put it down here. So I heard about this book last year and I've been meaning to pick it up ever since. And since, like I mentioned, I want to experience pure escapism, pure fluffiness, I decided to pick up a contemporary romance. And I know going in that contemporary romances is not exactly what I usually lean towards. They don't always work for me. And this was no exception to the rule. This book, it had such a really interesting premise, but it also kind of reminded me of a K-drama that came out, which is called What Is Wrong with Secretary Kim. I can never say that. And it is basically about a woman who decides to quit her job, and her boss really doesn't want her to, so he decides to pursue her and convince her to not quit the job. But in this situation, he is a football player and she's like his personal assistant. So I decided to DNF this for two reasons. The first reason being, I just didn't care. I didn't really like the main character. I thought she was kind of annoying. And the guy was also kind of annoying and a bit of a jerk, but then you can kind of see that they're trying to build for something more meaningful. The second reason why is because it's a huge book, and honestly I cannot spend that much time in a contemporary romance unless it's something I'm watching. And the other reason why I kind of DNF'd it was probably the same reason that I DNF'd Ali Hazelwood's Love Hypothesis, I think is called. I can't remember, but that's pretty much the same reason why I DNF'd that book. So I have a video talking about that somewhere, so I can link it above or below or whatever. I was listening to the audiobook and I think I only got probably 3 hours into the audiobook, so I didn't get very far. Usually when I read a book, I try to give it to at least 100 pages. And this one I decided to DNF at 60 pages, and that is Grim Space by Anna Greer. This book started off so strong. I really love the first two chapters. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. I want to be in a sci-fi kind of world. I was really enjoying that aspect of it and I was eating it up, those first two chapters. But after chapter 3, I quickly realized that I had a problem with the writing style and also the fact that the pacing was breakneck fast. We're jumping from one setting to another setting and things are happening and info dumping. Like it's a mess of a lot of information being dumped on you. And then we get to a planet and it's just a lot of things happened and I'm like, I don't think I want to read this book because one, didn't like the writing style, and two, I didn't really like how fast things were moving. We didn't really sit very much with the characters. Also, I found the main character to be a little annoying. So I decided to DNF this really quickly, and I will be donating this because I've had it for more than 4 years, I believe, and that's my new rule of thumb. If I've had it for longer and I don't plan to pick it up, I am unhauling it. So my next DNF is probably going to disappoint a lot of people. And it disappointed me as well. And that is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. I actually got to the 39th chapter, and that's like page 252, and I decided to stop. And it's not because I was disliking anything about it. It was mostly because it was going too fast. And I'm realizing that I don't like fast-paced stories. And the other reason why I decided to DNF it is because the narration style is very much somebody telling their story. But unlike books like The Sun Eater or what's another one? Gone with the Wind? No, not Gone with the Wind. The Name of the Wind. Although I haven't read The Name of the Wind, I've heard this is the same kind of a guy telling their story. Oh, and the Farseer trilogy as well. It felt like somebody was telling a fireside story where you're sitting around and listening to someone tell an amazing tale. And that's how it read. Like, it read very quick. There was not much character development. Things were happening very fast. So that's kind of the reason why I'm like, okay, I think it's not for me because of that fast narration style. But I absolutely loved the writing style and the humor. It was so fantastic. I laughed out loud. The audiobook was really, really great. So it was a really difficult decision for me to make, but inevitably, I feel like I just got what I wanted out of the book. So I did decide to keep the book because one, it's gorgeous. Like, I just love this book's cover. And two, because maybe one day I will pick it back up again when I'm maybe in a better mood for it. And also, I do want to give the Daughters of War a try. And I've heard actually mixed things. I heard people saying it's better, or people say that this is better. So I'm not sure which one I will agree with, but I do want to give it a go because, like I said, I really did enjoy his writing style. And I thought that this world was really awesome and really dark, but funny. Maybe I will pick this up back one day, but not anytime soon. But I am super glad that I did read it. Let's talk about the books that I actually finished. And I want to start off by saying, remember when I said this in my last video? And at the moment, this is not fitting me. It's not fitting what I want to read. I really should just stop saying stuff because honestly, I always contradict myself. So yeah, I said that, and this was the next book I finished. And I loved it. I had such a good time with Road of Bones by Demi Winters. And after DNF'ing 3 separate books, I decided this book was just sitting on a shelf staring at me, and I kept looking at it and kept saying, oh, you know, the possibilities. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to give it a go. And I think I DNF'd, where did I DNF to? Okay, I can't find the page, but this book is broken up in part 1 and part 2. And I DNF'd after part 1, but then I decided to pick it up after part 2. And oh my gosh, I am so, so glad that I decided to keep going with this because part 2 was a complete shift and I absolutely loved the second half. Okay, so I am beginning to realize that I do like romantic fantasy, but emphasis on the fantasy side. So I like a romantic fantasy when the story is focused more on the plot and the fantasy world than it is on the relationship. I feel like I lose interest when the book is mostly about their relationship, and especially when they get together and I'm like, oh, well, that's done. I'm done with the story now. But if there is a story and a plot that keeps me invested, I'm realizing this now where I think I have to be a little bit more choosy and picky when it comes to romanticies or fantasy romances to make sure that the world building and the story is more intricate and more unique, which this one totally is. And before, when I said that this was kind of like Red Riding, so wrong. So wrong. This is not like Red Riding at all. This has a lot of other elements of other kind of like fairy tales, but honestly, it kind of reminded me of X-Men because we're in this Viking world where these people have magical abilities, and because they have magical abilities, the normal people are like hunting them and basically either enslaving them or, you know, killing them off. So basically these people are in pretty much hiding, and there is like kind of like a dystopian theme or like a suppressing empire theme where there are these like where somebody took over and invaded and is basically suppressing the people, and there is a rebellion brewing. But the first part of the book, which didn't work for me, we're mostly focusing on Scylla kind of struggling with her new circumstance and having to travel this road of bones by herself and kind of discovering what life is like by herself and kind of growing from that. And I found that her character was incredibly naive, kind of annoying. She's very much like anti-violence, and it's just kind of like, she was kind of like a goody two-shoes. But then I kind of read the author's like backstory saying she wants to write about a very sensitive girl in a very brutal world. And as soon as I read that author's note, I'm like, yes, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like a lot of us are very sensitive and we are living in a very brutal world, and sometimes we don't act accordingly. We make mistakes, we make stupid decisions, and we're not thinking clearly. And I feel like that first part really, really dives deep into that. Although it was really annoying, I feel like after discovering that, I saw it in a different light. And also the second part, I don't want to give too much away. There is a shift in the second part where you're kind of dealing more with heavier topics like abuse, different types of abuse, also children soldiers, and you know, just people dealing with the trauma. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so good. Plus the world building in this is just incredible. There's creepy magical creatures. Loved it. Was not quite 5-star because that first part was a struggle for me, but the second part was 5, so I kind of rounded up to a 4-star. I'm really hesitant to recommend this to people, but I feel like if you're a person who does like romantasy, but you also like more of a fantasy setting or more emphasis on the world building, I think that you will really enjoy it. But like I said, keep in mind the beginning was difficult, but that second part, amazing. So yeah, very happy that I decided to go back on that. So remember when I said I don't like contemporary romances before? Like I said, I gotta stop talking and contradicting myself because I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I read this book in 2 sittings, I think. I'm not a person that usually sits down and reads a book all day long. Like, I just can't do that. But I read this book in 2 days, and it was so much fun. Was it anything special? No. Did it do anything mind-breaking or different? No. But did it give me the warm fuzzies? Yes, I absolutely loved it. I love the main characters. I loved the setting. I loved the story. I loved it all. But yeah, like I said, it was a little predictable, more than a little predictable. It was predictable, but I had so much fun with it. The setting kind of reminded me where my family lives in, I don't want to say Northern Ontario because it's not quite Northern Ontario, but around Lake Huron. The small town kind of feel was like almost exactly how it feels up there. And because this takes place in Michigan, which is basically south of where I'm talking about, the climate is very similar. I ate that up so much because it was just so nostalgic to me. And if anything, it wanted me to move away from the city to move up there. And a bonus was I actually enjoyed the main characters because usually when it comes to contemporary romance, I like usually just the guy or the girl, depending on whatever. But I love them both, and I had so much fun with this. It was just a good, fun read. I will definitely try to pick up another Emily Henry book. I did read Book Lovers, and it didn't really work for me. But I found like Book Lovers was more like a Hallmark movie, where it's like rich girl goes to small town, learns how to love, and meets this other guy, and blah, blah, blah. Whereas this one was kind of similar, but she wasn't a rich girl. It's different. But anyways, I gave it 4 stars because it gave me all the warm and fuzzies. And yeah, I'm definitely going to read more Emily Henry. And if you can recommend any stories with like small town vibe where both characters are very likable, please recommend them down below because I am open to reading more. Next book I just finished like literally this morning, and that is my reread of Dark Water Daughter by H.M. Long. This is a buddy read on my Discord. It is still going on. I just jumped the gun and listened to the audiobook and kind of binge listened to the audiobook while I was cleaning because I had a lot of cleaning to do. I'm so glad that I reread this book because literally I questioned if I even read it in the first place. Not that it was bad, it's just because I forgot so much. I love this book, but I think I like it less upon reread because I kind of noticed a couple of things, like the pacing was a little slow in the middle, to the point where some of the people in my Discord were questioning on DNF'ing the book, and which actually surprised me. So a few people questioned if they're going to DNF. I'm not sure if they have. One pushed past and they're like, oh yeah, I know, it gets so much better, so I'm so happy about that. I think when I talked about this before, I said this is more like a romantasy. It is not a romantasy. It is first and foremost a fantasy story. Like heavy fantasy story, and very much inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean, but we're in a cold setting. This book has a very unique setting and very unique characters and creatures. The creatures are in this are completely new and original, and I absolutely loved it. So this was a multiple POV book, and the main POV is Mary, and she is a storm singer, and that basically means that she can sing and control storms. And then the other main POV is Samuel, and he's a soother? I listen to the audiobook, so I forget things. And he basically can go into this like in-between realm, which is like almost like a spiritual world. And there's other different people with different magical abilities. There is an element that involves trees. So if you're very much into like natural kind of magic, I definitely recommend this book. The reason why I decided to bump it down from a 5-star to a 4.5 is because the pacing is a bit all over the place. The beginning is like, starts off with a bang, really jumps into it, but then you're also kind of learning more about the characters as the story goes on, and you're kind of getting flashbacks a little bit. And that kind of, although it works, sometimes it does pull you out of the story a little bit. The author doesn't really hold your hand. And so you do get answers, but it's not right away, and it's not in a way that you would assume that you would usually get the answers. So I can understand how some people would not click with that. If you try the first couple chapters and you really like it, trust the process. It gets good. The ending is incredible, and I am very excited to read the next book, hopefully in June. So if more people finish it and like it, I will probably continue on with the Buddy Read in June. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend this book. Like, I'm not joking. Highly recommend this. I think that there are so many people that would really, really like this book. So yeah, very happy that I reread it. So while I was editing, I realized that I not only forgot to mention one book, I also forgot to mention 2 books. I was not on my game when I was filming that video, so here we are making up. To my defense, they were audiobooks and I don't own physical copies of, and I also read both of them very quickly because they're not very large books. So that's my excuse for forgetting them completely. So the first book I forgot to mention is Ocean's Gadori by Elaine Yu Cho, and this is a Korean-inspired sci fantasy kind of book. I was first drawn to this book because the cover is just absolutely gorgeous. It totally brings me back to like old sci-fi covers. The second reason I was drawn to it is because it is a Korean-inspired book, and I love my K-dramas. If you are new to the channel, or if you've heard me talking about them before, I've been watching Korean dramas for about 20 years now, and I absolutely it's one of my passions. If you ever want any Korean drama recommendations, I would love to make a video about it, so let me know down in the comments. Anyways, back to Ocean Gadori. So Ocean Gadori was, compared to Becky Chambers', oh my god, my brain, A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet or something like that. It's got a huge title. I read it last year. It was a cozy kind of sci-fi book. I totally see the comparison. Like I mentioned before, this is a very Korean-inspired world where pretty much, I think Korea, I'm pretty sure South Korea, if I'm not mistaken, is like the dominant race right now. So all of our culture and everything on Earth is around the Korean culture, which I thought was pretty cool. So a lot of the words in the book are pulled from like the Korean language. And, you know, because I watch a lot of Korean dramas, I recognized a bunch of them. So I was kind of like, oh, I know what that means. Oh, I know what that means. I can't speak Korean. Don't get me wrong. It's a very difficult language and I can't speak it, but I do recognize words here and there. So that was really fun. Honestly, the way that they talked about food and like their culture and the words that they used just gave me like a nostalgic feeling. So I loved that. And we're in a futuristic world where we're still on Earth, but the Earth is not what it was, and also we're in space, and I think that they're going on different planets and there are other aliens, but in the book we did not meet any aliens. So there is mention of them, but yes, you don't meet any of them. So we're following Oceans, who is a disgraced pilot who is on another ship, and they get a new medic. So the story is told from the medic's POV and Ocean's POV, and it's just very interesting to see the dynamic of the ship from a person who's been there for a long time and a newcomer. So that was really cool. And we're just gonna leave it at that because I don't want to get too much into the plot, because I feel like if I talk about it, it'll kind of ruin it a little bit. I think the main problem I had with the story was the plot. And it's not because it was bad, it was just because it was not very dominant of the book. There was a plot, but it wasn't really focused on very much. It was mostly focused on Ocean's past and trauma and the character interactions. So that was the main focus of the book. And I think that that is why I didn't really like the book as much. I really wanted to love this book because Angela from Literary Science Alliance gave it 5 stars and has been raving about it and saying it's her favorite book of the year so far, or at least one of them. So I really wanted to love it. Between the weird pacing and the lack of plot, it just kind of didn't really work for me. I needed more. I think it needed to be a bigger book, a longer book, and the way that it ended, I hate endings like that. I really, really do. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars, which is unfortunate. And at this point, I am not sure if I'm going to continue on with the second book that's coming out later this year. Yeah, I really wanted to love it for all the reasons that I mentioned before, but it didn't work for me. But I do recommend it if you do like Becky Chambers' sci-fi series. I think that is pretty much very close to that, if you enjoyed that. And on to the other book that I forgot to mention. I read Leather and Lark by Brennan Waver. I cannot say her first name. Is it Brynan or Brian? I don't even know. This is the second book in the Ruinous Love trilogy, and this is following a different couple from the first book, Butcher and Blackbird, which I loved. Unfortunately, I didn't love this book as much as I really loved Butcher and Blackbird. I felt like I picked up Butcher and Blackbird at the perfect time. The audiobook was fantastic. The audiobook narrators were great. So I felt like it worked so well for me. Whereas Leather and Lark didn't really hit the same beats as the other one did. The first thing is the audiobook narrators. I really didn't like them. The guy did this like weird growl, whispery tone throughout the entire book, and he's supposed to be Irish, and I felt like his Irish accent was very, very, very faint. And the female narrator, her T's were very harsh, so when she talked, it was very noticeable. They weren't terrible, I'm just saying I didn't really like them as much as the other ones. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, this book is more focused on trauma and more focused on their relationship, which the other one had more of a plot and more of a humorous tone, but this one was mostly about the couple and them building their relationship, which was fine. There were some funny moments, but I didn't laugh as much as I did in that first book. So I only gave this 3.75, but I will be continuing on with the series and read the third one. I'm not entirely sure when, because I buddy read this with my real life best friend, so I have to kind of wait for her to tell me when she can get that third book. So I will be reading the third book at some point, probably in the summertime. And also the author is coming out with another book separate from this series, coming out in September, so I'm very excited to read that. So those were the 2 books that I totally, completely forgot to talk about. So let's talk about what I'm reading. I grabbed the second book in the Ashen series, and that is The Kingdom of Claw. And this one, I'm not very far in. I think I'm right here. I kind of slowed down on my physical reading over the weekend, so I wasn't able to really physically read very much, but loving this so far. We're getting more world building. We're getting more interesting magical creatures. It kind of reminds me of Star Wars, but like not in a sci-fi kind of way, but kind of like in a plot kind of way. So I'm really loving that. And I'm beginning to think that maybe this author is a huge Star Wars fan because there's a lot of similarities. Another beautiful cover, but again, my lights won't show you, so I'll just put it up here. Beautiful cover, love it. Very excited to continue reading this. So I need an audiobook, and all my examples are up on the top shelf. So I'm kind of flip-flopping between 3 right now, but I feel like I need a bit of a change in pace because I'm very much in like a historic fantasy kind of mode. So I think I need to read a sci-fi or something else. But these are the ones I'm thinking about. I'm halfway through Dead House Gates. I feel like I need to get back into that because I haven't listened to it in over 2 weeks. So I feel like I maybe need to listen to a couple of hours of that. So that's an option. I do need to listen to Alien Clay. I have been meaning to pick that audiobook up for the longest time. And maybe right now is probably the best time to pick it up to spice things up with everything that I've been reading. So maybe. Or my other option is Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. My library hold came in for that, so I have it. But I'm also currently reading another Viking story, so I'm not sure if it would be too much right now. So at this moment, I'm not entirely sure which one's going to be my next audiobook, but I will let you guys know in my next reading update. We made it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to comment, you can leave a heart emoji for all the romance books that I've been reading. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.